The Mello TV Evening News at 8 is brought to you by the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Coronavirus is in Jamaica, and I know you feel scared and worried. But you can't let COVID-19 divide us. Coronavirus infects all kinds of people. It doesn't discriminate. So why should you? When someone coughs or sneezes or shows signs of the virus, tell them to call 888-1-LOVE immediately. And remember, stay 3 feet away, but don't attack or disrespect them, because we're all in this thing together. Come on, Jamaica, cut the hate and don't discriminate. Let us stand together and fight COVID-19 as one family, one nation.
Tonight, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness sworn in as Prime Minister of Jamaica for a second term. Still tonight, JLP requests a magisterial recount for the Westmoreland Eastern constituency that was declared in favor of PNP incumbent Luther Buchanan on Sunday. And the narcotics police seized approximately 1,960 pounds of marijuana in Parity District, St. Elizabeth. Good evening. Prime Minister Andrew Holness was sworn in this afternoon at King's House. Now this is his second consecutive term in the role of Prime Minister after winning the September 3 general election.
We will diversify our economy to increase resilience, promote innovation, support youth entrepreneurs, and explore opportunities within the green and blue economies. We will support the development of coding, animation, film, logistics and fulfillment, among other sectors, to create 150,000 new jobs. We will continue to provide financial support to households and businesses to ensure that together we recover stronger. We will provide 500 million in grants for micro and small businesses that are community-based. We will deploy $1.2 billion in tourism grants to small and medium-sized operators in the tourism sector through the Exim Bank. We will provide $3 billion in agri-care support for our farmers and fisherfolk over the next 3 years. We will deploy $10 billion in loan guarantees to support micro, small, and medium-sized businesses. This will help our economy recover stronger.
In his address, Prime Minister Holness spoke about the government's plans for the country.
The health and economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic is ubiquitous in our daily life and will be that way for some time. We have been very strategic in managing the risks the pandemic poses, protecting lives and preserving livelihoods. While spikes in numbers are inevitable in a pandemic, as we have seen in even the most developed countries, our collective success as a country has led to some complacency in our behavior. As a government, we will put in place the necessary measures to bring this present spike under control and keep you safe, while not unduly affecting your livelihood.
Mr. Holness also addressed the issue of corruption.
Every member of the government must be an active agent for the stronger recovery of our economy and society. Every member of the government must understand that this mandate is not about them, it is about the people. No princes or princesses were elected. You have no divine right or entitlement. We are all servants of the public. On the whole, we have built out a fairly good anti-corruption structure through the Integrity Commission and MOCA.
Now, following the swearing-in of the Prime Minister, 4 government ministers were also sworn in this afternoon. They are Dr. Horace Chang as Deputy Prime Minister, as well as Minister of National Security, Dr. Nigel Clark as Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Christopher Tufton as Minister of Health and Wellness, and Mrs. Kamina Johnson-Smith as Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade. Still making news tonight, Jamaica has recorded 1 new COVID-19 related death in the last 24 hours, taking the total of deaths to 34. Meanwhile, 80 new samples have tested positive. The total number of positive cases now stands at 3,183. 60 new persons have recovered, taking the total of recoveries to 974. Now, in a press conference this evening, Prime Minister Holness announced that as of tomorrow, the revised all-island curfew hours will be from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. until September 23. Mr. Holness also appealed to businesses to facilitate the work-from-home order.
The provision of public transportation by motor car will be limited to 1 person, less than the maximum number of persons allowed to be carried under the relevant license from September 8, 2020 to September 22nd, 2020. And here I will pause to remind all those taking public transportation to ensure that you wear your mask while in the vehicle and to sanitize your hands immediately after you exit the vehicle. I also remind you to make sure that the protocols are being observed before you enter the vehicle. The prohibition on funerals and parties or such events will continue until September the 22nd, 2020. And just a reminder that burials will be allowed, but with strict observation and enforcement of the 15-person rule, and that the 15 includes no more than 10 mourners, with the additional 5 persons comprising the officiating clergy, funeral officials, and the persons preparing the gravesite. Funeral processions are only allowed to include the hearse, the vehicle taking the officiating clergy, and the mourners. Normal church services operating in compliance with the established protocols may continue. Congregants are reminded that gathering in excess of 15 persons are not allowed outside of the place of worship. When the service ends, please leave the premises without congregating outside the place of worship. We are also encouraging all businesses to facilitate persons to work from home if they are able to do so. These are the national measures. Again, let me emphasize that these measures are being constantly reviewed and may be adjusted as deemed fit.
Now, Mr. Holness further expressed reasons that contributed to the recent spike in COVID-19 cases.
Now, I must send a strong message to all Jamaicans about individual responsibility. Given that we are now in the community transmission phase, in our daily interactions, you have to assume that everyone you come into contact with could be carrying the virus. This means you cannot let your guard down. The recent surge in our numbers should have made it clear to everyone that there is no room for complacency. The health authorities have advised that our surge in cases can be linked to a number of activities, conventions, funerals, parties. No doubt there will be some effect from nomination day. But we continue to have control and regulations on those activities.
In other news tonight, the Jamaica Labour Party, JLP, will be requesting a magisterial recount for the Westmoreland Eastern constituency that was declared in favour of People's National Party, PNP incumbent Luther Buchanan on Sunday. The JLP's Daniel Lawrence was declared the winner of the seat after the preliminary count of the September 3 general election. He polled 4,831 votes, 8 more than Buchanan's 4,823. However, at the end of Saturday's official count, both candidates were tied at 4,834 votes.
On Sunday morning, after both candidates' names were placed in an empty box, Mr. Buchanan's name was pulled from the box. The presiding officer, in keeping with the requirements of the office, therefore cast one ballot in favor of Buchanan. Continuing with the news, the Transport Operators Development Sustainable Service says while they support the work from home recommendation by the government, the impact will be devastating on the already fragile public transport sector. Now, in a statement released earlier today, the organization said with an already depleting income and an increase in expenditure, they are calling on the government to consider a grant or loan window for the sector, as today thousands of operators have not received the promised COVID-19 grant. The organization further expressed that their plea to the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, for a waiver for sub-franchise operators has gone unnoticed. They further stated operators in St. Thomas and Clarendon are unable to work due to the lockdown, and with the additional restrictions this week, the sector will crash if considerations are not given. In news from the capital, Fontana Pharmacy says its store in Barbican has been temporarily closed for deep cleaning after an employee tested positive for COVID-19. Now, in a statement released yesterday, Fontana Pharmacy said the employee is quarantining at home. Now, the company further announced that it plans to reopen its Barbican location on Wednesday, September 9. In the meantime, Scotiabank temporarily closed its Ironshore branch today as 2 members of staff are being reviewed for COVID-19. Scotiabank, in a statement, said the Ironshore branch will be reopened to the public tomorrow after deep cleaning and sanitization has been completed. Scotiabank is further advising its customers requiring in-branch services to visit nearby Scotiabank branches at Fairview and Sam Sharp Square or to utilize their ABMs, telephone banking, online or mobile banking services. Back in the capital, the Criminal Records Office in downtown Kingston was today temporarily closed to the public to facilitate sanitization. The office was closed after several members of staff displayed flu-like symptoms. This has triggered the Jamaica Constabulary Force's COVID-19 infection prevention and control measures. As such, persons have been tested and placed in quarantine. In news from St. Elizabeth, the narcotics police seized approximately 1,960 pounds of marijuana in Parity District on Sunday. Reports coming into our news center are that at approximately 8:30 p.m. during an anti-narcotics operation in the area, a Toyota Noah bus and a Nissan station wagon were intercepted. A man from one of the vehicles escaped while the driver of the other vehicle was held. The vehicles were searched and several bags with compressed marijuana were found. The area was also searched and the police found a boat with fuel and marijuana. The total marijuana seized has an estimated street value of 7.84 million Jamaican dollars. The narcotics detectives are appealing to anyone with information about this find to contact them at 876-923-5729, Police Emergency 119, or the nearest police station. In news from St. Anne, 2 men have been held and another is being sought by the Alexandria police following the fatal stabbing of Nicholas Spencer, otherwise called Nick, and the wounding of a teenager in Inverness in the parish on Saturday. Reports from the police coming into our news center are that at approximately 9:55 p.m., patrons were at a party being held at a bar in the area when a fight developed between them. The police were summoned and upon their arrival, both Spencer and the teenager were seen with stab wounds. They were taken to the hospital where Spencer was pronounced dead and the teen admitted. The identities of the suspects are being withheld pending further investigations. The police are urging citizens to adhere to the curfew orders that have been implemented and are appealing to persons with information to contact the Alexandria Police at 876-975-1016, Police Emergency 119 or the nearest police station. In news from St. James, investigators assigned to the Coral Gardens police station are probing the circumstances surrounding a vehicular collision on the Flanker Main Road on Saturday that claimed the life of 72-year-old Llewellyn Mackenzie of Bamboo Drive, Hanover. Reports are that at about 7:03 p.m., Mr. Mackenzie was allegedly walking along the roadway in the vicinity of Burke Barracks when he was struck by a black 2010 Volkswagen Jetta motor vehicle. Mr. Mackenzie was transported to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. And those are the stories making news. I am Shelley-Ann Hill. We'll now take a break and then join Christopher Scott with sports.